Pittsburgh Penguins were red hot before the league took an extended holiday break. Hunter Hodies of Locked On Penguins joins us to discuss one of the best teams and hottest teams in the league, the Pittsburgh Penguins.
You are Locked On NHL, your daily podcast on the National Hockey League. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, Gil Martin with you here on the Monday edition of the Locked On NHL podcast. So glad you could join us, and thank you for making Locked On NHL your first listen every day. Right now, my pleasure to welcome back to the show the host of Locked On Penguins, Hunter Hodies. Hunter, how you doing?
Not bad. You know, it's a little annoying that the Steelers continue to stink up the town, but I think that's why I'm really hoping that the Penguins are back playing this week so they can give some of the Yinzers something positive to talk about.
Yeah, the Three Rivers community could use that. And look, 7 straight wins before the extended holiday break. You know, I'm going to start with this. We faced, I host Locked On Islanders. We faced you guys in the playoffs. Tristan Jarry, inconsistent to say the least. This year, lights out. What is the difference in his game this year as opposed to what I saw in the playoffs last year?
Yeah, I think, inconsistent was being nice. I think he basically gave that series away on a silver platter with especially how the rest of the team played. I thought, you look at the numbers and everything. But this year, he got his new goalie coach, Andy Chiodo. I think he's worked wonders with him. You're seeing a much more confident and aggressive goaltender this year. He's coming out way further to challenge shooters. Had a little bit of hiccups with some shootouts, but you don't see shootouts in the playoffs. So at the end of the day, that's not really a big concern. But he's playing at a level that no one has really seen him play at for his NHL career. I mean, he got to the All-Star break a few years ago, right? Played consistently well. Could have and probably should have started that series against Montreal when you look at it in hindsight. But this is still what we've seen from him. It trumps that by a mile. He gives them a chance to win on an every night basis. Obviously, it's only been a couple months. People are still going to be worried, and rightfully so. What happened is still very recent, but if he can continue this and he plays well, if this team makes the playoffs, this is going to be a very dangerous team to go in a 7-game series, especially if they get healthy at forward.
Yeah, and defense has been stout. The power play in particular has struggled. You look at this roster, so many talented players. What's going on with the Penguins' power play?
Yeah, it's a combination of factors. Obviously, not having Evgeni Malkin there really hurts it. He drives a lot of the power play success. Luckily, I think he's probably going to be close to ready to go, if not ready, whenever this pause is lifted. Jake Gensel's been in and out of the lineup with his injury. Brian Rust, has as well. But I'm also not seeing the Penguins get to those high danger scoring areas. They're not getting a lot of traffic in front of the net. They're not firing it from the slot areas. They're overpassing in a lot of situations, taking shots from, the corner boards and from the point and all that. And it's just been a mess. And I would like to think that it gets better when everyone gets healthy. We saw it, get a little bit better last season when everyone was healthy for a brief period of time. But it has really struggled this season. I mean, there was a time when, both Crosby, Malkin, and Rust were on the top power play. It was just Chris Letang, Jake Gensel, and a bunch of players that you're not used to seeing on the top power play. Jeff Carter as well. But it's funny, Gil, because last season, the special teams, it was a 180. The penalty kill stunk, and the power play was not bad. This year, the Penguins have the best penalty kill in the league, and they almost came close to breaking the all-time consecutive penalty killing record in the NHL. They were about close to 10 away from that. And then the power play this year stinks. So it's just funny how that turns out.
Yeah, it's always something, right? But couple of guys who have been contributing a lot offensively, Evan Rodriguez, Danton Heinen. These are not household names. These are not your Crosbys and your Malkins and your Letangs. What have these guys been adding, and why have they been pleasant surprises this year?
Yeah, Rodriguez, he was a player that, myself included, I wasn't super high on coming into the season just because, he was a fine bottom 6 player, but people were wondering if if it was the right call to bring him back over someone like Frederick Gaudreau, who was just as, if not more consistent than Rodriguez last year. Well, those people are obviously eating some crow right now because Rodriguez has not been one of the best players on the Penguins. He's been probably one of the top 5 to top 10 best forwards in the league this season. If you just look at the metrics, look at his production and all that. And the thing is, he's doing this on any line. I know obviously the headline, it's with Sidney Crosby. Penguins fans are wondering if he's going to stay with him when Brian Rust comes back. You can certainly make that argument, but he was also playing like this on the second and third lines when Sid was out of the lineup with his injury and COVID. And it looks like the only thing that's keeping him from not producing this season is COVID, because he landed on the COVID list on Sunday. But he's just been very consistent no matter what role he's given. You can play him on the second power play. Heck, you can play him on the top power play, and he's been awesome on there this season. For Heinen, it was all about just finding the right fit for him. It was obvious that his time with the Ducks was going to come to an end. If you saw him play there last year, his most common line mates were Jakob Silfverberg and Adam Henrique. Let's just say those two players are not nearly what they used to be.
Right.
And he already has 9 goals this season, and they've barely played a little over 30 games. Obviously playing with Jeff Carter helps a lot. Jason Zucker, no, he struggled, but his playmaking ability has been a bit better. But, he's a shoot first player, and that fits perfectly in Mike Sullivan's system. That was a slam dunk signing when it was announced, and it's only gotten even better as the season has gone on. I know Ron Hextall screwed up probably with the Jared McCann trade. You can't really defend that one. But all of his other moves this offseason are looking like pretty A-pluses to me, at least in my opinion.
Talk to me about the team defense, because they seem to be playing a lot better in front of Jarry, in addition to the outstanding play that he's given the team.
Yeah, the defense has been pretty stout. I guess outside of Mike Matheson, because he's the total chaos player, you're either going to get a great play from him, and then he's just going to screw up so badly the other way where it's like, where the heck did this come from? But I'll say this, Gil, a player that's not getting enough recognition from the national media this year, Chris Letang. I have been saying this on my podcast for the last couple of weeks. As he gets older, he gets younger. And it's ridiculous what he's been able to do on a nightly basis. He's 10th or top 10, in average game score, putting on a clinic defensively almost every night, is producing really well. And this is a player it's a contract year from him. He's played with this organization his entire career. The Penguins must have the reasons for why they haven't re-signed him yet, just probably due to cap stuff, and they want to see maybe what he can do. I'd sign him right now and not look back, just because of how, he's been able to play this season. There's always been a section of Penguins fans that think the team would have been better off just, not having Letang come back a few years back, which is just ridiculous. I hope those people are still watching the team at this point, but he's been great. Brian Dumoulin has been able to overcome a rough start, and you know what you're going to get from him. Very good defender, not a lot of offense, but the defending has gotten a lot better the last couple of weeks. John Marino has put his sophomore slump in the rearview mirror. You're seeing more offense from him, which I've touched on a lot on my show, because he got that 6-year deal worth close to $4.5 million per from Jim Rutherford. And some people thought it was an overpay, which, I can see the argument, just because he hadn't produced a lot offensively and also struggled last year. But he's playing with his normal partner in Marcus Pettersson, who has been solid this year as well. And he's starting to activate himself more in the offensive zone, which is what you want to see out of a young player. And he's been really good when called upon. Chad Ruedel, he's been fine as a number 6 spot, as I thought he would. There were people telling me that Mark Friedman, I think, should be the number 6 spot, and I just didn't see it, just because I think Ruedel offers more at both ends of the rink than Friedman. But overall, it's refreshing for the Penguins to not have a player on the back end that's killing them on a nightly basis. And Matheson kills them sometimes. Don't get it twisted. He has his struggles, and he's definitely overpaid, but it's not nearly to the degree that we saw a few years back with, Jack Johnson, Eric Goodbranson, Justin Schultz, and some of those other players.
Hunter, why don't you tell our listeners and our viewers where they could find you on social media and where they could find the podcast?
Yeah, so you can find the podcast on Apple, Spotify, and it's on YouTube now. Just search up Locked On Penguins. and it is there. And I will hopefully have this lighting every single night, because some other episodes I kind of look like a zombie, and I totally apologize about that. But my Twitter is at Hunter Hodies. The show's Twitter is at LO_Penguins. And for those who don't remember, before the pause, the Penguins have won 7 in a row, and they're expected to get hopefully decently healthy coming out of this. So we'll see what happens.
All right, optimism in Pittsburgh for the Penguins. Hunter Hodies, always a pleasure. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you.